You know that gut-wrenching feeling when someone you love says something so profoundly cruel, it shatters your entire world? That's what happened when my parents declared they couldn't afford 2 grandchildren on their lavish Florida vacation, leaving my daughter Emma out in the cold while my sister's child Lily was whisked away. I confronted them begging, "You always take her. Let us go instead." My mother looked me dead in the eye and sneered, "There's a reason we're not taking you. Taking you is a waste of money." Then my father with a dismissive wave added, "Just stop with the drama. Only the real family goes on holiday. And my sister Vanessa?" She just smirked, finally confirming the unspoken truth. In their eyes, Emma and I simply didn't matter. But they had no idea what kind of storm they'd unleashed. When they returned from their sun-drenched trip, ready to gloat about their real family vacation, they found a house stripped bare. Every single piece of furniture, every appliance, every item I'd ever paid for gone. And trust me, the screaming was epic. To understand how it all came to this, I need to take you back a few years. I was 32, a stay-at-home mom, when my entire world crumbled. My husband, Derek, died in a construction accident 2.5 years ago, leaving me with our sweet Emma, who was just 6. The life insurance barely covered the funeral and those agonizing medical bills from his week in the ICU. Overnight, I was drowning in grief, in mortgage payments, in the terrifying reality of raising a child alone with no recent work experience. I fought for 6 months, taking a part-time coffee shop job, but childcare costs devoured my paycheck. We fell behind. The bank started foreclosure. I was failing, utterly lost, and too proud to ask for help until I literally had no other choice. My parents, bless their hearts, or so I thought, offered us a lifeline. Move into their house, they said. They had a finished basement with 2 bedrooms, and it would give me time to get back on my feet. I was so incredibly grateful, clinging to their generosity like a drowning woman to a life raft. My sister Vanessa had moved out years ago, marrying Craig, a pharmaceutical sales rep with money to burn. They had their one daughter, Lily, who was 9. What I didn't realize then, in my haze of grief and desperation, was that moving back home meant stepping right back into a toxic family hierarchy I thought I'd escaped at 18. The first few months were manageable. I found a job as an administrative assistant at a dental office. The pay wasn't amazing, but it covered my share of groceries and utilities. My parents insisted I contribute, which seemed fair. I paid $400 a month for rent, half the electric bill, and bought groceries for Emma and myself. When their washing machine broke, I even forked over $800 for a new one. Money I absolutely didn't have. Emma started 2nd grade that fall. She was still so quiet, so withdrawn, seeing a grief counselor once a week that I paid for out of pocket. My little girl had watched her daddy's health decline, and that trauma sat heavy on her small shoulders. Vanessa, on the other hand, would sweep in every Sunday for family dinner, designer clothes rustling, chirping about Lily's piano lessons, her dance classes, the private tutor they'd hired for math. My parents would positively light up whenever Vanessa walked through the door. Mom would actually stand up to hug her, something she never did for me anymore. Those Sunday dinners became a strange form of torture. I'd help cook, clean up afterward, and contribute money for groceries. Vanessa would show up empty-handed, stay for precisely 90 minutes, and then leave with containers of leftovers my mother insisted she take. When I gently suggested we could perhaps alternate who hosted, my mother looked at me like I'd proposed something obscene. "This is my house," she'd remind me, "and you should be grateful to be included." One particularly difficult dinner, late that fall, Lily brought her report card. Straight A's, naturally, with glowing comments from every teacher. My parents praised her endlessly. My father even took a photo to show his golf buddies. Emma had brought her report card too, tucked away in her backpack. Mostly B's with 1 C in math. But her teacher had written a lengthy note about how much Emma had improved socially, how she was opening up, how proud she was of Emma's resilience. My heart swelled reading it. Emma waited for a lull in the conversation, looking at me nervously. I nodded encouragement. She pulled out her card and slid it across the table to my mother. Mom glanced at it for maybe 3 seconds. "That's nice, sweetie," she said absently, then turned back to Vanessa to ask about Lily's upcoming dance recital. I watched Emma's face fall, saw her carefully fold her card and put it back in her backpack. Later that night, she asked me if her grades were bad. I held her while she cried, telling her teacher's comments were worth more than any letter grade, that I was so incredibly proud of her strength. But I couldn't undo the damage of being so callously dismissed by her grandmother. I tried not to compare. I really did. But it became impossible to ignore the glaring difference in how our daughters were treated. For Emma's 8th birthday last March, my parents mailed her a card with $20. Mailed it. We lived in the same house. I'd asked them weeks in advance to please make an effort, maybe take her somewhere special. Instead, a meager card arrived on her actual birthday. I threw Emma a small party at a local park, inviting 3 kids from her class. My parents didn't attend, claiming a prior commitment. That commitment, I later discovered from Vanessa's social media posts, was attending Lily's soccer game. Emma saw the pictures. She didn't say anything, just quietly closed her tablet and went to her room. My heart ached for her, for the quiet resignation in her small shoulders. 2 months later, for Lily's 9th birthday, my parents took her to an amusement park for the entire day and bought her a new iPad. The photos flooded social media. Lily on roller coasters, Lily with cotton candy, Lily hugging my parents in front of a fountain. The iPad was the newest model, the one that cost over $600. My father, who had told me just weeks earlier that he couldn't afford to contribute anything toward Emma's dental work, had apparently found his wallet when it came to Lily. When I dared mention the discrepancy to my mother, she got defensive immediately. She said Lily was easier to shop for, and that Emma was going through a phase that made her difficult to connect with. The phase she was referring to, of course, was grief. My daughter's profound sadness over losing her father was an inconvenience to them, something that made her less appealing as a grandchild. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake my mother and ask her how she could be so callous, so deliberately blind to a child's pain. Instead, I swallowed it down like I'd been doing for months, telling myself that things would get better, that this was temporary, that family was supposed to stick together. I even bought a used sectional sofa for their living room in June because their old one was literally falling apart, springs poking through the cushions. It cost me $1,200, money I'd been saving for Emma's summer camp. I told myself it was an investment in our living space, that we'd all benefit. That same month, Vanessa redecorated her living room and posted pictures all over social media. My mother's comments were glowing. So tasteful, my talented daughter has such an eye for design. Summer came and went. I worked extra hours when I could, picking up weekend shifts. Emma went to the community center's free program instead of the camp I'd wanted to send her to. But she made a friend there, Sophie, which felt like a small victory. She'd been so isolated since losing Derek. Then September arrived, and with it, the announcement that shattered whatever illusions I'd been desperately maintaining. We were all sitting around the dinner table on a Sunday evening. Vanessa had brought an expensive bottle of wine that my parents fawned over. Lily was showing my dad something on her phone, and he was actually smiling, a genuine smile I rarely saw directed at Emma or me. "So we have exciting news," my mother chirped, glancing at my father with a conspiratorial smile. "We're taking a family vacation to Florida in October. 2 weeks at a beach resort." Emma's head snapped up, her eyes suddenly bright with something I hadn't seen in months. "Hope, Disney World?" Emma asked quietly, her voice small but eager. Vanessa laughed, not unkindly, but the sound still cut. "We're actually thinking Clearwater Beach. More relaxing than theme parks." "We're going?" Emma asked me, looking up with those big brown eyes that were exactly like Derek's. The silence that followed felt like being underwater. My mother carefully cut her chicken, not meeting my gaze. My father took a long sip of wine. "Well," my mother finally said, her voice strained, "we can't really afford to take everyone. We're taking Lily, of course." The hope drained from Emma's face so quickly, it physically hurt to witness. She looked down at her plate, and I watched her small hands clench into fists under the table. "I don't understand," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice level. "You're taking a family vacation but not including us?" "It's expensive, honey," my father said, using that patronizing tone he'd perfected over the years. "Flights, hotel, food for 2 weeks. We have to be realistic about our budget." "But you're taking Lily," I pointed out, feeling heat rise up my neck. "She's not your child either." "Lily is our granddaughter," my mother said primly, as if that explained everything. "Emma is also your granddaughter." I shot back, my voice rising despite my efforts. "She's your granddaughter who lost her father, who's been through hell, and who could really use something good in her life." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Craig was checking his phone, completely disengaged. "Maybe next time," my mother offered weakly. "This trip has been planned for a while." "No, it hasn't," I said flatly. "You literally just announced it 5 minutes ago." "The decision has been made," my father said with finality, using the voice that had ended arguments throughout my childhood. But I wasn't a child anymore. I was a widow, a mother, and someone who had been contributing significantly to their household for over 2 years. "You guys always take her places," I pleaded, hearing the desperation creep into my voice and hating it. "The amusement park, the zoo, that weekend trip to the mountains last spring. Emma never gets included. Let us go instead. Just this once." My mother's expression hardened. "There's a reason we are not taking you," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "Because taking you is a waste of money." The words landed like a physical blow. Emma made a small sound beside me, almost like a wounded animal. I felt my face flush hot with humiliation and pure unadulterated rage. "Excuse me," I managed to choke out. "You heard me," my mother continued, apparently deciding to fully commit to cruelty. You're always complaining. Emma's always moping around. It's depressing. Who wants to spend a vacation dealing with that? She's a child processing trauma, I said through gritted teeth. She lost her father. Just stop with the drama, my father interjected, setting down his fork with a clatter. You know, only the real family goes on holiday. The room went completely still. Even Craig looked up from his phone. The real family? I repeated slowly. Vanessa was staring at her plate, her cheeks flushed pink. Lily looked confused, glancing between the adults, trying to understand the tension. What does that mean, Dad? I demanded. He had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable, but he didn't take it back. You know what I mean. Don't twist my words. No, please explain, I said, my voice shaking now. Explain to me and your granddaughter how we're not real family. My mother sighed dramatically. You're being deliberately difficult. We simply can't afford to take everyone, so we have to make choices. Vanessa contributes more to this family. Her daughter is more pleasant to be around, and frankly, we prefer their company. Is that clear enough for you? Vanessa finally spoke up, but not to defend me. Instead, she looked almost relieved as she said, finally, someone's being honest about who actually matters more. Something inside me broke in that moment. Not just cracked, but completely shattered. I looked at Emma, who had tears streaming silently down her face, and I knew exactly what I needed to do. Emma, go pack a bag, I said quietly. What? My mother said sharply. Pack a bag, I repeated to my daughter. We're staying somewhere else tonight. You're overreacting, Vanessa said, though she wouldn't meet my eyes. It's just a vacation. Get out, my father said, his voice cold. If you're going to throw a tantrum like a child, you can leave. Oh, we're leaving, I assured him, my voice dangerously calm. Don't worry about that. Emma and I went downstairs to our basement apartment. I helped her pack her clothes while she cried quietly. I packed my own things with shaking hands, my mind racing through everything I needed to do. We drove to a budget motel that night. It was clean but basic, and I took almost all the cash I had in my checking account for a week's stay. Emma fell asleep curled up next to me, and I lay awake making plans. The next morning I called in sick to work and started making phone calls. First, I contacted my old college roommate, Rachel, who lived about 40 minutes away. She and her husband had a 3-bedroom house and had been telling me for months that I was welcome to stay with them anytime. I'd always declined, not wanting to impose, but I wasn't too proud anymore. Come today, Rachel said immediately when I explained what happened. Stay as long as you need. Next, I started going through my records. Every receipt, every bank statement, every canceled check from the past 2 years. I paid for that washing machine. I bought the sectional sofa. I purchased the new microwave when theirs died. I paid for repairs to the fence, the garage door opener, and contributed to having the house painted last summer. I paid rent totaling $9,600 over 2 years, plus thousands more in utilities and groceries. The list was staggering when I wrote it all out. Beyond the big-ticket items, there were dozens of smaller purchases. The towel rack in the bathroom when theirs broke, $43. The electric kettle I bought for the kitchen, $68. The hallway runner that replaced their stained carpet, $215. New bedding for the guest room when Vanessa complained, $190. A standing lamp for the dark corner of the living room, $85. The welcome mat, the kitchen curtains, the shower caddy, the bathroom scale. Every single purchase was documented. Receipts stored in a folder I'd maintained out of habit from my previous life. When Derek and I tracked every expense for our household budget, I kept that habit even in my grief, even when money was tight, because it gave me a sense of control when everything else felt chaotic. I also found the informal ledger I'd kept of my rent payments, $400 transferred on the first of each month, without fail. Even during the month when Emma had pneumonia and the medical bills nearly buried me, I paid on time. Even when the dental office temporarily reduced my hours and I'd lived on ramen for 2 weeks, I'd made sure my parents got their money. 24 months of payments. Never late. Never short. The utilities were trickier since I'd paid my share through cash, but I'd noted each payment in my checkbook register. Roughly $200 a month in electric, gas, water, and internet, another $4,800 over 2 years. I pulled up my grocery receipts next. I kept them for tax purposes, hoping to eventually qualify for some kind of assistance. Every shopping trip where I bought food for the household, not just Emma and me. The times I'd picked up items my mother requested, the dinners I'd funded when we had family meals, the snacks I kept stocked for Lily's visits because my parents never did. The total amount I'd contributed to that household over 2 years came to just over $28,000. $28,000 in rent, utilities, groceries, appliances, furniture, repairs, and miscellaneous household items. Money I'd scraped together from a modest salary while raising a grieving child alone. Money I'd prioritized over Emma's activities, over building our own savings, over creating any kind of cushion for emergencies. I broke it down one more time to be absolutely certain. $9,600 in rent, roughly $4,800 in utilities. The washing machine at $800. The sectional sofa at $1,200. The microwave, coffee maker, pots, pans, dishes, and kitchen items totaling around $800. The garage door opener repair at $320. Contributing $2,500 toward having the house painted. Fence repairs at $650. The hallway runner, towel rack, electric kettle, guest room bedding, lamp, and various household items adding up to approximately $900. The lawnmower repair at $240. Gardening tools at $135. And groceries. I've been feeding more than just Emma and myself for 2 years. Based on my receipts, I'd spent roughly $300 per week on household groceries, which over 2 years came to about $31,200, though I'd only documented about $7,000 of that since I hadn't kept every single receipt. Even being conservative with my estimates and only counting what I could definitively prove, the total was $28,145. And they called taking us on vacation a waste of money. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. I called a lawyer named Jim, who had helped Derek and me with our will years ago. He specialized in family law and property disputes. "Do you have receipts for everything you purchased?" Jim asked. "Every single one," I confirmed. "And you paid for these items outright? Your name is on the receipts." "Yes." "Then legally those items are yours. You can remove them from the property. And if they try to stop you, you can involve the police and show proof of ownership." My parents and Vanessa were leaving for Florida on Thursday morning. They'd be gone for 2 weeks. I had that entire time to execute my plan. I took the week off work using vacation days I'd been hoarding. Rachel's husband, Mike, was incredibly helpful. He had a pickup truck and knew people with larger vehicles. I also rented a U-Haul cargo van for the day we'd need it most. On Thursday morning, I watched from down the street as my parents' car pulled out of the driveway, loaded with suitcases. Vanessa's SUV followed behind them. They were all heading to the airport together. I waited 2 hours to be safe, then pulled up to the house with my key ready. Mike met me there with 2 of his friends from his construction company. I had my file folder of receipts and we got to work. The washing machine came out first. It was heavy, but Mike's friends had a dolly and experience moving appliances. They loaded it into the pickup truck bed. The sectional sofa was harder. We had to remove the legs and take it out in sections, but we managed it. It completely filled the U-Haul van. I took the microwave from the kitchen counter. I unplugged the coffee maker I bought last Christmas. The set of pots and pans I purchased when I first moved went into a box, along with the dishes I contributed, the silverware, the kitchen towels. From the bathroom, I took the shower curtain and bath mats I bought. From the hallway, I removed the small table I'd found at an estate sale. "What about this?" Mike asked, gesturing to the television in the living room. I checked my receipts. Sure enough, I'd split the cost of that TV with my parents when their old one died. "Take half the wall mount brackets," I said. "And I want documentation that I paid for half." In the garage, I found the lawnmower I paid to repair and the garden tools I bought. Those went into the truck. My father had complained about the lawnmower dying 2 summers ago, right after we'd moved in. He'd gotten quotes to replace it, prices ranging from $400 to $800. I'd offered to pay for the repair instead since I just started working and couldn't afford a full replacement. The repair cost me $240, but it worked perfectly afterward. I'd mowed the lawn most weekends since then, too. Another contribution that went unacknowledged. The gardening tools had been a Mother's Day gift that first year. I bought my mother a complete set: pruning shears, a trowel, a cultivator, gloves, even a kneeling pad for her joints. She'd used them once, declared gardening too much work in this heat, and they'd sat in the garage ever since. $135 I'd spent trying to find something she'd enjoy, something that might help us connect. We worked for 6 hours straight. Every item I'd purchased, every appliance I'd paid for, every piece of furniture with my name on the receipt. The house looked bare in places. The living room was particularly stark without the sofa. The kitchen looked odd without the microwave and coffee maker. Mike's friends were professional and efficient. They treated my possessions with care, wrapping furniture in blankets, securing everything properly in the vehicles. One of them, a guy named Tony, took a break around hour 3 and asked me directly if I was okay. "I'm better than I've been in 2 years. I told him honestly. He nodded slowly, looking at the increasingly empty house. "Good for you," he said. "Nobody should stay somewhere they're not appreciated." By the time we finished, the U-Haul was packed, Mike's truck bed was full, and we'd made 2 trips with his friends' vehicles. The basement apartment Emma and I had occupied was completely stripped. Our clothes, Emma's toys, our personal belongings, all of it gone. The beds we'd slept on were actually my parents' property, so those stayed along with the dresser they provided, but everything else? Gone. I walked through the main house one final time. The bare living room with nothing but the old recliner my father sat in. The kitchen with gaps on the counter where appliances had been. The garage with empty spaces on the walls where tools had hung. Each empty space represented money I'd spent. Effort I'd made. Attempts to contribute and belong. But I had receipts for everything. Legal proof of ownership. I left the rent money I paid where it was. That was simply gone. But everything else I purchased, those were my possessions and I had every right to take them. I left the keys on the kitchen counter along with a note that simply said, "As you mentioned, we're not real family. Real family wouldn't need these items back. Consider this us respecting your wishes about who actually matters." By the way, if you're still with me, and I know this has been a whirlwind, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because the drama is far from over, and more unbelievable stories are coming your way. We moved everything into Rachel's garage and the spare bedroom that would become Emma's new space. Rachel helped me set up a makeshift living area. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours and we were wanted there. Emma started at her new school the following Monday. It was closer to Rachel's house and had a better grief counseling program. She was nervous, but Sophie's family lived in the district too, so she'd have at least one friend there. I didn't hear from my parents for the full 2 weeks they were gone. No calls, no texts, nothing. Vanessa posted vacation photos on social media. All sunshine and smiles, my parents looking relaxed and happy with Lily building sandcastles. They returned on a Wednesday evening, 2 weeks to the day after they'd left. I know because I got the first phone call at 8:47 that night. It was my mother, and she was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "What did you do?" she shrieked. "Where is everything? Where is my furniture?" "Your furniture?" I said calmly, my voice flat. "Or my furniture that I purchased?" "You robbed us," she screamed. "We're calling the police." "Please do," I said, a dangerous calm settling over me. "I have receipts for every single item I removed from your house. Every appliance, every piece of furniture, every household item. They're my legal property and I can prove it." My father got on the phone, his voice laced with menace. "You get back here right now and return our things." "They're not your things," I said. "Check the receipts I left on the kitchen counter. Everything I took I paid for. The washing machine, $800 from my account. The sectional sofa, $1,200. The microwave, $175. The coffee maker, $60. Should I continue?" "You lived here rent-free," my mother shouted in the background. "I paid you $400 a month for 2 years," I countered. "That's $9,600 in rent, plus thousands more in utilities and groceries. I have bank statements proving every payment." "Where are you?" my father demanded. "Where's Emma?" "We're somewhere we're actually wanted," I said. "Somewhere we're treated like real family." My mother grabbed the phone again, her voice wavering between anger and desperation. "You're being childish. Come back right now and we'll forget this happened." "No," I said simply. "You made it very clear that we don't matter, that taking us anywhere is a waste of money, that we're not real family. I'm simply respecting your position. It was just a vacation." Vanessa's voice cut through. She must have come over to see the damage. "You're destroying our family over a vacation." "No," I said, my voice steady now. "You destroyed this family when you told a grieving 8-year-old that she doesn't matter as much as her cousin. When you told me that my child and I are a waste of money. When Dad said we weren't real family. I'm just making your wishes come true. You wanted us gone? We're gone." "We never said we wanted you gone," my mother protested, her voice rising to a frantic pitch. "You said we weren't worth taking on vacation, that we were depressing, that only real family gets to go on holidays." I reminded her, each word a cold, hard stone. "What exactly did you think would happen? That we just sit there and take that kind of treatment forever?" The phone erupted in overlapping voices. Accusations, threats, demands, and what might have been the beginning of an apology from my father, though it was hard to tell through the chaos. "I have to go," I said, cutting through the noise. "Emma needs help with her homework at her new school. In our new home, where people actually want us around." I hung up before they could respond. The calls continued throughout the evening. 12 more times that night they called. I declined everyone. They left voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading to threatening legal action. I listened to exactly 3 of the voicemails before deleting the rest without hearing them. The first was my mother, her voice shrill and breaking. "How could you do this to us after everything we've done for you? We took you in when you had nowhere to go. And this is how you repay us? You're selfish. You've always been selfish. And now you're teaching Emma to be just like you." The second was my father, attempting to sound authoritative. "This is theft, plain and simple. I don't care what receipts you have. You can't just break into someone's home and remove their property. I'm giving you 24 hours to return everything or I'm pressing charges. You're destroying this family over your bruised ego." The third was Vanessa, and her tone surprised me with its venom. You know what? Good riddance. Mom and Dad are better off without you dragging everyone down with your constant victim mentality. Em is probably better off too, learning early that actions have consequences. Don't bother reaching out when you realize what a massive mistake you've made. I deleted the rest without listening. Whatever they had to say, I didn't need to hear it. Rachel found me sitting on the floor of Emma's new room around midnight, organizing her books on a shelf we just assembled. You doing okay? She asked gently. I keep waiting to feel guilty, I admitted, my voice raw. Waiting for that moment where I regret what I did. But it hasn't come. Maybe it won't, Rachel suggested, sitting down beside me. Maybe you're just done accepting less than you deserve. They made me feel crazy for so long, I said, my voice cracking. Like I was imagining the favoritism, like I was being too sensitive. Even tonight, listening to those voicemails, they're acting like they're the victims, like I attacked them unprovoked. They're rewriting history to make themselves the heroes, Rachel observed. It's easier than acknowledging they drove you away. Emma appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I heard yelling, she said quietly. Just some old voicemails, baby, I told her. Nothing to worry about. She climbed into my lap, even though she was getting too big for it. Are we in trouble? The question gutted me. I exchanged a look with Rachel over Emma's head. No, sweetheart. We're not in trouble. We're safe. Do Grandma and Grandpa hate us now? The innocent query twisted my heart. I don't think they hate us, I said carefully. I think they're upset and confused, but that's for them to figure out. Our job is to take care of each other and be happy. Can you do that? Emma nodded against my chest. I like it here. Mike showed me how to shoot basketball hoops in the driveway. That's good, baby, I whispered. That's really good. After I got Emma back to bed, I finally checked my email. 3 messages from my father. Each one progressively more desperate and less authoritative. The first demanded I return everything immediately. The second offered to discuss the situation like rational adults. The third admitted they may have been too harsh and wanted to find a resolution. Too little, too late, and still not a real apology. The next morning I received a text from Vanessa. Mom's crying. She says you broke her heart. How could you do this? I replied. Tell her I know exactly how it feels to have your heart broken by your mother. She did it to me first. Then I blocked her number. My father sent another email. We never meant for things to go this far. Can we please talk like adults? I responded. Adults don't tell their daughter she's a waste of money. Adults don't exclude a grieving child from family events. Adults don't play favorites with their grandchildren. You want to talk like adults? First, you need to act like adults. The police never came because, as Jim had assured me, I hadn't done anything illegal. Every item I removed was legally mine, purchased with my money with receipts to prove it. 3 days after they returned, my parents showed up at my workplace. The receptionist called me up front, looking uncomfortable. They looked terrible. My mother's eyes were swollen from crying, and my father looked like he'd aged 10 years. You can't avoid us forever, my mother said, her voice hoarse. I'm at work, I replied calmly. This isn't appropriate. Nothing about this situation is appropriate, my father said, his voice rising. Other people in the waiting room were staring. Lower your voice, I said quietly, or I'll have security escort you out. My mother started crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she'd used on me throughout my childhood. Please, she whispered. Please just come home. We can work this out. That's not my home anymore, I said. You made that very clear. We made a mistake, my father said, and those words seemed to physically pain him. He was not a man who admitted mistakes easily. You made a series of choices, I corrected. Deliberate choices over a long period of time about how to treat your daughter and granddaughter. The vacation was just the final straw. Well, next trip, my mother offered desperately. We won't go anywhere without you. I don't want your pity invitations, I said, my voice firm. I don't want to be somewhere I'm tolerated instead of valued. Emma deserves better than that. She deserves grandparents who love her as much as they love Lily, who include her without being forced, who see her grief as something to support rather than an inconvenience. We do love her, my mother insisted. Not equally, I said. And maybe you can't. Maybe Vanessa's always been your favorite, and Lily by extension. Maybe Emma and I are too much of a reminder of loss and struggle. Maybe we're not successful enough or put together enough or pleasant enough for you. But whatever the reason, it's not Emma's fault. And I won't let her grow up thinking she's less worthy of love. Where are you staying? My father asked, his voice breaking. At least tell us you're safe. We're very safe, I assured him. We're with people who actually care about us. My boss appeared behind me, having heard the commotion. Is everything all right here? These people were just leaving, I said. My mother reached out as if to grab my arm, then seemed to think better of it. Please, she whispered. Please don't do this. You already did it, I said. I'm just choosing not to accept that treatment anymore. They left and I went back to work with shaking hands but a clear conscience. Over the next month, the attempts at contact became less frequent. Vanessa sent one more text that I saw before blocking her number. You're tearing this family apart. Is your pride really worth it? I didn't respond, but if I had, I would have told her that families are already torn apart when some members matter more than others. I just made the tear visible. Emma's therapist says she's making significant progress. She smiles more now. She invited 3 kids from her new school to a birthday party we held at Rachel's house last month. My parents sent a card with $100 in it, a gift offering 5 times what they'd given her before. Emma asked if she should accept it. That's up to you, I told her. It's okay if you want to keep it, and it's okay if you don't. She thought about it for a long time before carefully placing the card and money in a box under her bed. Not spending it but not throwing it away either, leaving her options open, which seemed wise. I found a better paying job last week, one with actual benefits and room for advancement. Rachel and her husband Mike have told us we can stay as long as we need, but I'm saving for a place of our own now. Something small but truly ours. Sometimes I think about my parents and wonder if they understand yet what they lost. They still have Vanessa and Lily, their preferred family. So maybe they don't feel the absence. Or maybe they do late at night when they sit in their living room with no couch and drink coffee from a pot they had to buy to replace the one I took. Either way, it's not my concern anymore. I have my own family to take care of, and we're building something better. Something based on mutual respect and equal love, not hierarchy and favorites. Emma asked me yesterday if she was ever going to see Grandma and Grandpa again. I told her honestly that I didn't know. That it would depend on whether they could learn to treat her with the love and respect she deserves. Do you think they will? She asked. I don't know, baby, I said. But either way, we're going to be okay. We have each other and we have people who love us. That's what real family looks like. She seemed satisfied with that answer. And honestly, so am I. Then last week I received a letter in the mail. Not an email or a text, but an actual handwritten letter from my father. It was 3 pages long, and it contained something I'd never really heard from him before. A genuine apology. He acknowledged the favoritism, admitted that they'd failed Emma and me, and asked if there was any way to rebuild trust. I haven't responded yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Trust isn't rebuilt through words alone. It requires consistent action over time, and I'm not sure they're capable of that kind of change. But the letter sits on my dresser and sometimes I read it before bed, not because I'm ready to forgive, but because it confirms what I already knew. I made the right choice. Standing up for myself and my daughter was the right thing to do. Even when it was hard, even when it meant losing people I'd once considered essential to my life. We're not going back to that basement apartment. We're not going back to feeling less than. We're moving forward. And if my parents want to be part of that future, they'll need to prove they've actually changed. Until then, Emma and I are doing just fine with the family we've chosen. The ones who showed up for us when we needed them most. Rachel and Mike, Emma's new school counselor, her friend Sophie and her welcoming parents, Jim, the lawyer who helped me understand my rights, and all the people who have reminded us that we do matter. We are worth investing in, and we deserve to be treated like we belong. That's the real family right there. The ones who show up, who make space, who love without conditions or comparisons. And it turns out you don't have to share blood to share that bond. My parents said we weren't real family. They were wrong, but not in the way they think. We are real family. Emma and I, and everyone who's chosen to stand beside us. They're the ones who gave up that privilege when they decided some grandchildren matter more than others. And that's on them, not on us. So tell me, if you were in my shoes reading that letter from your father, would you have responded right away, or would you have waited, giving them time to truly reflect? Have you ever had to choose between your peace and your biological family? I really want to know what you think.